Can you hear me? Hello and welcome. So, as you all know by now, a few months back the announcement was made for the reveal of the new Gen 9 Pokemon game. And along with that came the 3 new starters. Well, after that reveal, I immediately took a liking to one little guy in particular, and couldn't resist going off and making a couple speculative evolution ideas for what Fuecoco might evolve into. But as one does in the long wait before the release of a new Pokemon game, I kept thinking about what kinds of Pokemon I would want to see when Gen 9 officially goes live. And of course, while I always want more Frog and Toad Pokemon, there are also a couple other types of creatures I would love to see get added into the roster as well. In particular, a Dolphin Pokemon would be rad. You see, at the time of making this video, we have no pre-existing Dolphin, or even really any Porpoise Pokemon, save for one, which doesn't really count because Kyogre, although it is an Orca, is also a legendary Pokemon, and you know, there's just something different about legendaries that sets them apart from the normal Pokemon you can encounter while traveling a regular route. Kyogre doesn't count. Going into this, I also had a pretty good idea of what I wanted the typing for this Dolphin Pokemon to be. Dolphins are pretty energetic creatures, and for such an excitable and fun-loving critter, the electric type seemed most fitting. So I decided to go with a dual water-electric type. Water for obvious reasons, and electric to match its sparky little personality. Okay, so I'm gonna do the sketching now, and I knew from the start I wanted something interesting to happen with the tail. I was originally thinking that the design might have more of a clear or hollow tail with something, maybe light bulbs or circuitry inside, as a way to contrast the upper and lower half of the Pokemon's body, as the top half would be opaque and solid colored. But ultimately I ended up going with something that was close-ish, but very different direction-wise as the design progressed. Here I'm coming up with the eye design, something that also took a little bit of fiddling. It's really interesting how different Pokemon tend to have their own uniquely identifiable eye shapes that most of the time tend to give you a bit of an impression into what its personality is like. So following that rule for this guy, I wanted to come up with something that appeared friendly and welcoming, but if met with in battle, for instance, had the capability to look impassioned and fiery. I ended up settling on something that was fairly simple, sort of like the eyes of a Girafarig or Bulbasaur. For the rest of the design, I wanted to keep that recognizable dolphin body shape and litheness, but you'll notice that I do mess around with adding a few spikes here and there. The intention being that quite a few electric types tend to have spiky and jagged edges to their shape design in things like their fur or on their tails. For example, the first Pokemon that comes to mind for me when you say electric type is usually Jolteon, who is very spiky. So I wanted to emulate that sort of feel by adding a few tufts of spiky fur onto this dolphin. And yes, I know dolphins generally wouldn't have fur, but it's fine. We can consider it to be more like the fur on a seal. Also, here I messed around with the tail shape, mimicking a sort of Raichu-like tail. I started with 2 separate Thunderbolt shapes and merged them in the middle to create a paddle that would emulate the tail of an actual dolphin. I continued to fiddle a little bit with the fur until I get a shape design that I like, and drawing from my initial idea here, I still wanted to maintain that separation between the upper and lower body halves, so I used the fur to aid me in creating this sort of dividing line. From the beginning, I knew the primary colors I wanted to use for this dolphin were going to be yellow and black, so a lot of the main body is comprised predominantly of these 2 colors. Yellow being the primary electric type color, and black just because it looks cool with yellow, and it's often seen accompanying it anyway on many electric type Pokemon, so it fits, and together they make for a very fun and brightly colored porpoise design. Taking a little bit of inspiration from striped dolphins, I go ahead and add in a little darker stripe along the side that can possibly be used to communicate or express emotion via flashing light signals, and will also be used for something else as well that I'll show at the end. And to give this dolphin more of an unusual feel, the tail, more so than just being oddly shaped, is actually also going to double as a magnet, so I've given it the same red and blue coloration often seen on the north and south pole ends of a magnet. I imagine that their tail is a key part of a lot of their attacks, capable of generating electrical energy and swatting it through the water with incredible force. Just imagine these dolphins playing a game of volleyball with an electro ball, swatting it back and forth with their tails. It could even be a vital part of training their young to discharge electrical attacks in an efficient manner for hunting and defense. So after going through all of the coloring and the shading, here's what we end up with. This is Polpoise, the Sea Guide Pokemon. A Pokemon who is capable of reading the pull of magnetic poles and using those like a compass while swimming across vast open oceans. Polpoise will never be lost, and often uses its keen sense of direction to aid sailors and swimmers who have gone adrift at sea. The coloration of the tail and the stripe along its side are also actually indicators of whether the polpoise you've come across is male or female. The male stripe will tend to have a more spiky, pointed edge, while the female's is much smoother, and the tail coloration will be mirrored depending on which you find. I imagine this Pokemon to be sort of like finding a Feebas or an Absol. It's by no means a legendary, or even at all a pseudo-legendary, but it's just sort of rare to come across, and would have a very low spawn rate in the wild. There was also a concept I was considering making for an evolution, where it would become a sort of Orca Pokemon, but I'll save that for a future date. Abilities for this Pokemon would likely be Volt Absorb and Liquid Voice, with the hidden ability Lightning Rod. But there you have it. That's Polpoise. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the design, please consider leaving a like. It really helps me out a lot. If you want to see the full version, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. And if you would be at all interested in seeing what the evolved version for this guy might look like, feel free to let me know down in the comments. I might put together another video for it if so. Also, if you want to get updates for any new stuff I post in the future, consider subscribing and, clicking that little notification button so you don't miss any future uploads. Alright, well, I'm done here. Thank you, bye!